Chosen one, what if the greatest threat to your future isn't the storm you can see, but the quiet influence you've stopped noticing? What if the enemy never needed to destroy you, only distract you long enough to pull you away from the path God prepared for your life? Today, this message carries a warning that many people will ignore because the hidden danger doesn't arrive looking dangerous. It often appears as a familiar voice, an attractive opportunity, a comfortable habit, or a decision that feels harmless in the moment. Archangel Michael wants you to understand something that could change the way you see your life forever. There is a reason your spirit has felt different lately. There is a reason certain people no longer bring you peace. There is a reason some doors have refused to open, even though you prayed for them. And there is a reason this message found you today. Stay with me until the very end, because the final revelation will uncover the hidden danger surrounding countless people and the simple shift that can protect your peace before everything changes. Now, open your heart, remove every distraction for these next few moments, and listen carefully, because this message may arrive exactly when your soul needs it most. Chosen one, Archangel Michael reveals that the greatest dangers are rarely the loudest ones. Most people expect warnings to come through dramatic events. They imagine obvious signs, undeniable proof, or life-changing disasters. Yet many of heaven's greatest warnings arrive quietly, almost unnoticed, because wisdom often whispers before consequences begin to speak. Ask yourself this: have you recently felt uncomfortable in places that once felt peaceful? Have you noticed that certain conversations leave you emotionally drained even though nothing negative was openly said? Have you felt an unexplainable hesitation before making a decision that seemed perfect on the surface? Do not ignore these moments. Sometimes your spirit recognizes what your mind has not yet understood. God created your heart to sense what your eyes cannot always see. That quiet feeling inside you is not always fear. Sometimes it is discernment growing stronger. And discernment is one of the greatest gifts heaven can place inside a person, because discernment protects before damage begins. Many people only recognize danger after it has already changed their lives. But wisdom allows you to recognize it while there is still time to choose another path. Michael reminds you today that not everything beautiful carries peace. Not everything exciting carries purpose. And not everything that is easy comes from God. Some opportunities shine brightly only because they are designed to pull your attention away from what truly matters. That is why protecting your attention has become so important. Whatever repeatedly captures your attention eventually begins shaping your thoughts. Your thoughts influence your choices. Your choices create your future. This is why the hidden danger often starts with something small. A small distraction, a small compromise, a small delay in prayer, a small habit of worrying instead of trusting. None of these appear dangerous at first, but over time they slowly weaken the peace that God has been building within you. Michael wants you to understand that the enemy often works through accumulation rather than interruption. One negative thought becomes 10. One unnecessary distraction becomes hours of lost focus. One unhealthy influence slowly becomes part of your daily life. Before long, a person begins wondering why they no longer feel close to God. The answer is rarely one dramatic mistake. More often, it is many tiny choices that quietly pulled their heart in another direction. That is why heaven keeps calling you back to stillness. When your life becomes filled with constant noise, it becomes difficult to hear divine direction. Silence is not empty. Silence is often where clarity is born. Some of you listening today have been asking God for answers, yet your schedule leaves almost no room to hear them. Michael encourages you today to create moments where your heart can rest. Turn away from endless distractions. Step away from unnecessary fear. Return to prayer with expectation instead of routine, because God's voice has never stopped speaking. Sometimes the world simply became louder. Chosen one, another sign that your spirit is growing is that you begin valuing peace more than approval. You stop chasing acceptance from people who constantly misunderstand you. You stop forcing doors that refuse to open. You stop exhausting yourself trying to convince everyone to believe in your calling. Instead, you begin trusting that what God has prepared will never require you to betray your values to receive it. This season may feel lonely at times, but loneliness and preparation are not the same thing. A seed grows unseen before anyone celebrates the harvest. Likewise, your character is being strengthened in ways that cannot yet be measured. Do not compare your hidden season with someone else's visible success. Heaven works according to purpose, not popularity. Some blessings require deeper roots before they can carry greater weight. So if progress feels slow, do not assume God has forgotten you. If certain people have quietly drifted away, do not immediately call it rejection. If some plans unexpectedly changed, do not believe your purpose has disappeared. Sometimes heaven removes what no longer belongs so your future has room to grow. Every ending is not a punishment. Every delay is not failure. Every closed door is not loss. Some are protection that only makes sense when you look back. Today, Michael leaves you with one question to carry in your heart. What has been quietly stealing your peace while you were focusing on everything else? Because the answer to that question may reveal the hidden danger before it has the chance to shape your future. In Part 2, Archangel Michael reveals the 3 silent signs that heaven is trying to redirect your path, and why ignoring them could keep you from the breakthrough you've been praying for. Chosen 1. Archangel Michael reveals that heaven rarely forces a person onto the right path. Instead, God often speaks through quiet moments that many people overlook because they are waiting for something dramatic. The problem is not that God has stopped speaking. The problem is that the world has become so loud that many hearts no longer recognize his gentle direction. Michael wants you to understand something important today. The hidden danger around you is not only found in people or circumstances. Sometimes it is found in the habit of ignoring what your spirit has been trying to tell you for weeks or even months. That is why heaven often sends signs before seasons change. Not to create fear, but to give you time to walk in wisdom. The first sign is a loss of peace that refuses to go away. Everyone experiences stressful days. Everyone has moments of uncertainty. But there is a difference between temporary pressure and the quiet absence of peace that keeps returning whenever you move toward a certain decision. Perhaps every time you think about a particular relationship, your heart feels heavy. Perhaps every time you consider a certain opportunity, something inside you tells you to slow down. Many people ignore these moments because they cannot explain them logically. But Michael reminds you that not every truth can be measured by human reasoning. God often prepares your spirit before he reveals the full picture. Waiting for visible proof may cause you to miss the warning that was already placed within your heart. Chosen 1. Never underestimate the value of peace. Peace is not weakness. Peace is direction. It becomes easier to recognize God's path when your heart is no longer ruled by confusion. The second sign is constant distraction. Michael says one of the greatest battles of this generation is not always against obvious evil. It is against divided attention. Every single day something is competing for your focus. Endless scrolling, constant opinions, negative conversations, fear-filled headlines, the pressure to compare your life with everyone else's. Little by little, these distractions steal the attention that should belong to God. Hours disappear. Prayer becomes shorter. Gratitude becomes weaker. Purpose becomes blurry. The enemy does not always need to stop your calling. Sometimes all he wants is to keep you distracted long enough that you stop walking toward it. Ask yourself honestly, what has been receiving more of your attention than your relationship with God? Whatever you feed grows stronger. If you continually feed fear, fear becomes louder. If you continually feed faith, faith becomes stronger. Your future is shaped by what consistently receives your attention. Michael encourages you to become intentional again. Protect your mornings. Protect your thoughts. Protect your peace. Because attention is one of the greatest gifts God has given you. Do not hand it away carelessly. Now Michael reveals the third sign: repeated delays that invite reflection instead of frustration. Many chosen ones become discouraged when doors refuse to open. They immediately assume they failed. They wonder if God has forgotten them. But what if the delay is not punishment? What if it is protection? Imagine receiving something before your character was ready to carry it. Imagine entering a relationship before healing from the last one. Imagine achieving success before developing humility. Would those blessings truly help you, or would they eventually become burdens? Michael says God's timing is never careless. Every delay carries purpose. Sometimes heaven is preparing you. Sometimes heaven is preparing the opportunity. And sometimes God is removing unseen obstacles before allowing you to move forward. That is why patience is not passive. Patience is active trust. It says, I may not understand today, but I trust that God understands what I cannot see. Chosen one, there are battles you never had to fight because heaven quietly closed the door before you walked through it. There are heartbreaks you never experienced because God redirected your steps without explaining every reason. There are dangers you never noticed because angels were protecting you long before you recognized the threat. One day you may look back and realize that what felt like disappointment became one of the greatest blessings of your life. Do not rush ahead simply because others are moving faster. God has never measured your life by someone else's timeline. He writes every story differently. Comparison steals joy. Comparison steals gratitude. Comparison steals peace. But trust restores all three. Michael says the person who keeps looking at everyone else's journey often misses the miracles happening in their own. Lift your eyes. Look at where God has already brought you. Remember the pray. He has already answered. Remember the doors He has already opened. Remember the moments when He carried you through seasons you thought you would never survive. If He was faithful then, He will remain faithful now. Chosen one, before moving into your next season, Michael asks you to release one thing, the need to control everything. Control creates anxiety. Trust creates peace. You were never asked to carry tomorrow before tomorrow arrives. You were only asked to remain faithful today. Walk one step at a time. Pray one prayer at a time. Make one wise decision at a time. That is how God builds strong foundations. Because a life built with patience will always stand longer than a life built in haste. And there is something even more dangerous than distraction. Something that quietly enters through the people closest to you. In part 3, Archangel Michael reveals how hidden influences can slowly reshape your thinking. Why some relationships suddenly begin to feel different. And how to recognize whether someone is drawing you closer to God's peace or pulling you away from it without you even realizing it. Chosen one, Archangel Michael reveals that not every battle begins with a dramatic event. Some of the most life-changing battles begin with the people, voices, and environments you allow into your daily life. Many believe their future is shaped only by the big decisions they make. But heaven sees something deeper. Your future is also shaped by the small influences you accept every single day. Every conversation plants a seed. Every voice leaves an impression. Every environment either strengthens your spirit or slowly weakens it. That is why Michael urges you to become more aware of what surrounds you. Not because you should live in fear of everyone, but because wisdom knows that what repeatedly enters your heart eventually begins to shape your character. Chosen one, have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling strangely exhausted? Nothing openly hostile was said. No argument took place. Yet somehow your peace disappeared. Michael says this is one of the ways hidden influences work. Not through obvious attacks, but through constant negativity, through endless doubt, through fear disguised as advice, through voices that slowly convince you to lower your expectations, question your purpose, or forget the promises God placed in your heart. That is why you must guard your inner life. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every criticism deserves your energy. And not every invitation deserves your yes. Sometimes the wisest answer is silence. Sometimes the strongest decision is walking away. Chosen one, there is another truth many people struggle to accept. As you grow spiritually, some relationships naturally begin to change. This does not always mean someone is your enemy. It simply means not everyone is meant to walk beside you forever. Some people are part of a season. Others are part of your foundation. And only God knows the difference. Do not force people to stay if their season has ended. Do not chase relationships that require you to abandon your peace. What God intends to remain in your life will never require you to compromise your integrity. Michael says growth often reveals what comfort once concealed. The more your discernment increases, the more clearly you begin to recognize unhealthy patterns. You notice repeated dishonesty. You notice manipulation. You notice relationships where you are constantly giving but rarely receiving encouragement. You notice environments that leave you feeling empty instead of strengthened. These realizations are not meant to make you bitter. They are meant to make you wise. Chosen one, another hidden danger is carrying burdens that God never asked you to carry. Some people spend years trying to fix everyone around them. They carry other people's worries, other people's choices, other people's responsibilities. Eventually, they become emotionally exhausted because they are carrying weights that were never theirs. Michael reminds you today, compassion is beautiful, but compassion without boundaries leads to weariness. You can love people without carrying every burden they create. You can pray for someone without sacrificing your own peace. You can encourage others without neglecting your own relationship with God. There is wisdom in knowing the difference. Chosen one, Michael also reveals that fear often disguises itself as responsibility. It whispers, "What if everything depends on you? What if you fail? What if you miss God's plan?" But heaven answers with a different truth. God has never asked you to control every outcome. He has asked you to trust Him with every outcome. Faith is not pretending problems don't exist. Faith is believing that God's wisdom is greater than your uncertainty. That is why peace returns when control is surrendered. Chosen one, look back over your life for a moment. Think about the situations that once seemed like the end of your story. The job you didn't get, the opportunity that disappeared, the relationship that unexpectedly ended. At the time, those moments felt painful. But today, can you see how some of them protected you? Can you see how certain endings redirected your life towards something better? Michael says heaven often answers prayers in ways that only become clear with time. Some blessings arrive through open doors. Others arrive through closed ones. Both are acts of divine love. Never assume that every no is rejection. Sometimes God's no is protecting you from a future your present self cannot yet imagine. Chosen one, there is one habit Michael wants you to build during this season. Before making important decisions, pause, pray, and wait for peace. The world rewards speed. Heaven often rewards wisdom. Rushing creates unnecessary mistakes. Waiting with God creates clarity. Do not confuse urgency with purpose. Many distractions demand immediate attention, but God's direction carries a quiet confidence that does not need panic to prove itself. When heaven leads, peace remains, even if the path is challenging, even if others do not understand, even if the outcome has not yet appeared. Chosen one, your greatest protection in this season is not knowing every detail about tomorrow. Your greatest protection is walking closely with God today. Every prayer strengthens your heart. Every moment of gratitude changes your perspective. Every act of obedience prepares you for what lies ahead. You do not need to fear what tomorrow may bring when your steps are placed in God's hands, because the shepherd always sees farther than the sheep, and the one who guides your path already knows every obstacle before you reach it. So do not let fear become your guide. Let wisdom lead you, let peace confirm your direction, and let faith remind you that heaven has never lost sight of your future. But Michael says there is one final hidden danger that many chosen ones never recognize until it has already stolen their joy, a danger that hides inside their own thoughts. In Part 4, Archangel Michael reveals how negative thinking, discouragement, and unresolved pain quietly block blessings, and the powerful shift that restores peace, clarity, and confidence before your greatest breakthrough begins. Chosen one, Archangel Michael leaves you with one final truth before this message comes to an end. Many people spend their lives watching for dangers around them, yet they rarely notice the battle taking place within them. Your mind is the doorway through which either peace or fear enters your life. That is why the greatest hidden danger is not always a difficult circumstance. Sometimes it is allowing discouragement to become a permanent voice inside your heart. Every day you are presented with two paths. One path is filled with fear, doubt, and endless what-if questions. The other is built on faith, wisdom, and trust in God's guidance. The voice you choose to believe today will influence the life you experience tomorrow. Michael reminds you that every great victory begins long before anyone else can see it. It begins with a decision to believe that God is still working even when nothing appears to be changing. A decision to keep praying even when answers seem delayed. A decision to keep walking forward even when the road feels uncertain. Chosen one, there may have been moments when you questioned your purpose. Perhaps you looked at your life and wondered why everything seemed to move more slowly than you expected. Maybe you watched other people succeed while your own prayers remained unanswered. Michael says, never compare the chapter you are living with someone else's finished story. God is writing your journey with perfect wisdom. Some stories require longer preparation because they carry greater responsibility. A tree that is meant to stand through powerful storms must first develop deep roots. In the same way, your character is being strengthened before your next season begins. Do not mistake preparation for delay. Preparation is evidence that heaven is building something strong enough to last. Chosen one, another trap many people fall into is carrying yesterday into today. Old failures, old disappointments, old betrayals, old regrets. Without realizing it, they continue reliving moments that God has already invited them to leave behind. Michael says your past should become a teacher, not a prison. There are lessons you should remember, but there are burdens you must release. Forgiveness does not erase what happened. It frees your heart from being controlled by it. When you let go of bitterness, you create room for peace. When you release fear, you create room for faith. When you surrender control, you create room for God's direction. Heaven cannot lead a heart that refuses to move forward. Chosen one, look carefully at your life. Think about every challenge that once convinced you that your story was over. Yet somehow, God carried you through. The strength you have today was built during battles you never thought you would survive. The wisdom you now possess was born through seasons of waiting. The compassion inside your heart grew through moments when you needed God's comfort the most. Nothing has been wasted. Every tear taught something. Every delay developed something. Every closed door protected something. Even when you could not see His hand, God was still guiding your steps. Michael says one day you will look back and realize that heaven was protecting you in ways you never recognized. The opportunities that disappeared, the relationships that ended, the plans that suddenly changed, some of them were not punishments. They were acts of mercy. God could see what you could not. He knew where each road would lead long before you reached the crossroads. Chosen one, as you move into this next season, carry these truths with you. Protect your peace. Guard your thoughts. Choose wisdom over impulse. Choose faith over fear. Choose prayer over panic. Choose gratitude over comparison. Do not allow temporary uncertainty to convince you that God's promises have failed. The same God who opened doors in your past is fully able to open the right doors again. The same God who protected you yesterday will continue protecting you tomorrow. The same God who has never abandoned you will not begin now. Walk with confidence. Walk with humility. Walk with discernment. And whenever fear whispers that you are alone, remember this: heaven has never stopped watching over you. God's presence is not measured by what you feel in a single moment. His faithfulness is revealed across an entire lifetime. So keep your eyes on Him. Keep your heart open to His wisdom. Keep your spirit anchored in His peace. Because no hidden danger is greater than the protection of the one who walks before you. May God fill your heart with courage, your mind with wisdom, and your path with His perfect peace. If this message encouraged you today, let us know in the comments by writing, "I choose God's peace over fear." If this message strengthened your faith, please like this video, share it with someone who needs this encouragement, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future messages of hope, wisdom, and spiritual encouragement. May God bless you, guide every step you take, and may His peace remain with you always. Until next time, stay strong, stay faithful, and keep walking in His light.